Captains Courageous by Rudyard Kipling, the Great Illustrated Classics abridged version, originally published in 1896. Chapter 1, Boy Overboard. The North Atlantic fog rolled over the huge ocean liner and over the schooners and dories of a fishing fleet. It was May, and the cod were running off Newfoundland, in the area known as the Grand Banks. The liner's foghorn sounded its mournful warning with regularity, but the huge ship did not slow its speed, despite the fact that the speed was dangerous for the small boats that couldn't maneuver out of the way of the liner's cutting prow and powerful engine screw. The thick fog crept into the liner's smoking room through an open door. A man reading a newspaper shivered, then got up and shut the door with a bang. "That Shane boy is the biggest nuisance aboard," he complained to the other readers. "He leaves the door open just to irritate people." A white-haired German nodded in agreement. "Spoiled, like many rich Americans." Another man looked up from his book. "Rich is an understatement for the Shanes," he said. "The old man owns half a dozen railroads, most of the lumber on the Pacific coast, and countless mines, just to start the list." The man who had closed the door said, "Just the same, it's ridiculous for him to give his son $200 a month in allowance, even if he is an only child. And I'll bet he can worm twice that amount out of his mother when he wants to. She can't manage him, but he can certainly manage her." The newspaper reader gave a short laugh. "She told me she's taking him to Europe to finish his education. Soon he'll be the most traveled know-nothing around. His best subjects will still be arrogance and rudeness, and it's a pity, because there's a lot of good in the boy if someone could only get through to him." All the men looked up as the door to the smoking room was flung open. A boy of about 15 entered. He was thin and slightly built, with a pasty yellow complexion. Ashes from his cigarette fell onto his red jacket, which matched the cap he wore, pushed back on his light, curly hair. He sauntered into the room and perched on the table, knocking some magazines onto the floor. The man who had shut the door before said loudly, "Close the door and stay outside, Harvey. You're not wanted here." Harvey Shane tilted his chin up impudently. "Do you plan to throw me out, Mr. Martin? You didn't pay my way. This room is open to all passengers, and if you want the door shut, shut it yourself." With a muttered oath, Mr. Martin slammed the door and returned to his paper. The other men ignored Harvey. Determined to be noticed, Harvey said loudly, "Say, the fog is real thick. You can hear the fishing boats ringing their bells when we get close. Wouldn't it be great if we ran one down in the fog?" The man with the book turned a page and made no reply, nor did any of the others. Harvey frowned and ground out the remains of his cigarette on the floor. Making one more bid for attention, he took a roll of bills from his pocket and began to count them. "How about a little poker?" he asked, glancing about. "I don't care how high the stakes." Getting only silence as a reply, Harvey put away his money and turned his attention to the books lining one wall of the room. "Those books are all junk," he said with contempt. "We have a better library in my father's hunting lodge in the Adirondacks. Ours are all bound in blue leather with real gold lettering." This was too much for the man reading a book. "What's the binding got to do with the contents of a book?" he snapped. Harvey shrugged, glad at last to be spoken to. "My mother always likes the book bindings to match the color scheme in each room." "Heard your mother's been seasick. Too bad," observed the man more gently. "Yes," said Harvey, "but she always gets sick on the ocean. Now I haven't been sick at all, except for a tiny bit the first day." He looked around for approval and saw the German looking at him shrewdly. Boldly, Harvey said to him, "Got a cigarette? I can't bear that mild junk the steward sells. I prefer Turkish tobacco every time." In reply, the German opened his cigar case and held it out. Harvey strolled over and hesitated a moment before accepting one of the long, skinny black cigars. "Dot is a man's smoke," said the German as Harvey lit the cigar with a flourish, confident that he was being accepted in grown-up society. "You like it?" Harvey was so intent on drawing in the smoke that he didn't notice the smiles of the other men in the room. He inhaled deeply. "Oh yes, very good flavor," he said, trying to give the impression that he was accustomed to such cigars, though it was his first. But soon his eyes filled with tears from the harsh smoke, and his stomach began to heave. He stood by the table swaying a bit. "I think I'll go outside for a moment and see how the fog is doing," he said weakly. And as quickly as he was able, he staggered from the smoking room. The men laughed loudly and returned to their reading. Harvey staggered over the wet deck to the nearest rail. Nearby, a steward was lashing deck chairs together. Because Harvey had bragged to everyone that he was never seasick and refused to be seen in such a condition, he forced himself to continue down to the second deck, well out of sight. In a very shaky state, he crawled to the deserted stern of the ship by the flagpole. There, as the big waves were leaping up, along with his stomach, Harvey doubled up in agony. His head swelled, sparks danced before his eyes, and weakness closed in on his whole body. Because he was close to fainting, he couldn't grip the rail too firmly. The ship dipped down as a towering wave rose up. The dipping pulled the limp Harvey over the rail and into the green depths of the sea. The water closed over him, and Harvey blacked out.